I'm going to talk about this particular guide, Missions to Marble, because this is a big one that a lot of people ask about. Can I use that in high school? Replacing these books with the extensions, which are in the back of the book, and they're scheduled. And they're in this video, I want to talk about Heart of Dakota, their middle school guides, and the possibility of using them in high school and getting credit for several subjects, of course, including the history. Welcome to Learning with Boys. My name is Rachel. I am a homeschool mom. I have 4 boys. I have graduated 2. We are on our 17th year. I have a senior this school year and my last middle schooler who's in 7th grade and is using this curriculum, Heart of Dakota, Revival to Revolution. Now, I will link a couple videos down below that give you a real deep look inside this guide and maybe a couple of the other guides. Now, for middle school, they sort of follow the history. That's what this whole curriculum is revolved around, is the history. Now, it does have boxes, and this would be a day's worth of work. So this side is going to be your history. You'll have story time. You'll have your main spine to read about, maybe a narration that day, maybe a verse to look up. And then there's like a president study, some independent study, and then another box that will have geography, will have timeline. This one has economics in it. And on the other side is your other subjects, which would include Bible, math, language arts, science, and maybe like art or some other enrichment. So that's sort of how this guide works. It really is open and go, which we absolutely love about it, but we do enjoy the living books. We at least use it for the history. Sometimes we use it for the science, even the language arts we've tried, and a lot of the enrichments we do. So I want to share with you, there are 4 middle school guides: Creation to Christ, Resurrection to Reformation, which my 7th grader now used in 5th and 6th grade. Now he is using the Early American and World History, Revival to Revolution, and then next school year, Missions to Modern Marvels. Now, a lot of people would be like, why do I need to think about using a middle school guide for high school? Originally, this curriculum only went up to 8th grade. The author of this book, is a mom of 4 boys herself, and they are a family-owned company that have been around for many years. I mean, obviously, at least, I want to say maybe 20 years. I'm not really even sure. So she just wrote a book a year. So some people would come in and need something for high school. These books have options for that, and that is what I want to share with you. There is a catalog, and also online. They've really revamped all that. It's very nice to use, but they have a nice catalog that talks about where your child is placed. They have placement charts for elementary and middle school and high school. So looking at the placement chart and what that year offers is helpful, because you want your child to be at a certain level with, writing and reading and thought process, their comprehension, talks about all that. And it gives you a little idea of what each subject will contain, so you can have an idea of what is going to be taught that year. I'm going to talk about this particular guide, Missions to Marble, because this is a big one that a lot of people ask about. Can I use that in high school? There also may be the reason of you have a child with special needs. It might be, I am not familiar with all of the special needs that there is, but a lot of them may have to do with dyslexia or dysgraphia. They also might have to do with the comprehension of what the subject is and what they're reading, or what you are needing to read to them. And it's not that they're not capable, it's just there might be some delays. So that might be another thing. So it's very important to look at the placement chart to see what guide your child would fall into. So that might be a reason. You might be like, well, mine's in 8th grade and they only fall into Revival to Revolution. Can I use this one in high school? Because it is easier to just continue the flow. Now, we have skipped a guide once, maybe twice, when we first started using Heart of Dakota. But I do feel like it does increase in your workload, in your comprehension and knowledge each year. When you jump into a high school guide, I feel like it's a pretty big jump. So you really want to be ready. So maybe you have one that's not quite ready for the high school guide. Can you use Missions to Modern Marvels, which would be American history, modern American and world history. So let's look at a couple of things that they have that will help you use it for high school. And the first thing would be their extensions, which is, I'm going to turn the camera around and show you the books that would normally go with this for 7th or 8th grade, and then what you could use for high school if you wanted to use this guide in 9th or even 10th grade. So let's look at that first, and then I'll come back and talk about some of the other subjects. Okay, I have the Missions to Modern Marvels guide right here in front of me. I do have an older guide, so some things may look a little bit different, but I don't think it'll affect what I'm about to tell you. There are spines and there are living books. And let me just sort of discuss a little bit of the difference, and that might help you understand how you're going to make some changes for the high school years. Now, there are quite a few spines for this guide. These are probably your main two. This one has been changed out. I have an older guide, like I said, but I think the rest is the same. Those other two books and then all of these books here. Okay, so these spines that I just showed you are going to be the books that would be scheduled daily and would be the bulk of your history. These books would be your living books that I showed you in the catalog, and you would read these books every day until they were done. Maybe a week and a half, maybe 2.5 weeks. It depends. And they each will just correlate with the subject, the era of history that you were talking about. And here's the last one. Okay, if you wanted to use the history for high school, you would continue with the economy package and your basic spines. And instead of the basic read alouds, you would go to the extension package on the next page, which includes all these books. And let me show you in the guide how that works. I have it opened here to Unit 4, Day 2. So this would be your basic reading about history, which would be from your spines, the story of the world, and the great events in America. And here would be your living books, your story time, which is God's Adventure. If you decide to do the high school level, you would want to use the extensions. That is scheduled in the back of the guide. I'm going to flip back here because I'm sort of saving my spot. So in the back of the guide, it does talk about the extension package, gives you sort of an overview of what each book is about and what units they're used in. And then there is actual schedule. So week 4, I actually have this book. You will begin the Serial Tycoon for the extensions. This is just one of the books. I have a few of the books, and I'll show you what I do have. So this would be high school, 6 Days in October. These are not in any order. Escape from Saigon, and Careful Enough. So these are some of the extension books, and there's several more. I do not have them all. This is also part of the extension, which is the American Testimony DVDs, which from what I understand, it now comes on a thumbnail if you order it new. And that will also, for example, in Unit 4, it tells you to read and then watch. And then on Day 3, you're to read and to watch something from this. These are actually used in the high school guides. So I want to let you know that. And probably some of these extension books are too in their story time. So that is sort of how the extensions work for the history. You're just replacing these books with the extensions, which are in the back of the book, and they're scheduled and they're in the catalog. Okay, I do want to mention the language arts, which they're using Writer's Goldmine and Writer's Workshop. And both of those, to me, because I looked into those, I actually mentioned them in my brainstorming for language arts for 8th and 9th grade, that I could use those in high school. So that is a thought. And also Rod and Staff, 6th and 7th. And they will tell you that these are advanced. They actually don't, they use book 8, I think, in the upper high school. So this could, either one of these could be used in 9th grade, depending on where your child is. So you would want to look at the placement chart and just sort of decide on some of those areas also before you make the decision of using this for a high school guide. Okay, so that was a core of it. When you are doing the history, you're also going to be doing narration, written and oral, and you'll be doing some other notebook work. You'll be reading source documents. That's all in the notebook pages. So there's more than just the reading in the guide. And you can see some of that in some of the videos that I'm going to link below. Now, I haven't done a video on this guide that my son is going to be using next year. I don't know when I'll get a chance to do that. So I wanted to get this out for you at least. I want to talk about the other subjects because when you're in high school, you are getting credits. I'm assuming if you're here and you're wondering about that, that this is all working towards high school credits. So doing the extensions would give you that option. Also, there's geography involved, which is very easy to follow. I really enjoy the way they do geography with the history. It follows the timeline of history. So now let's talk about science because that is another concern. What can you change or what can you do different? And those are some options. Now, you can use a majority of what they have for science in this guide, and I'm going to show you the books. They have the World of Chemistry, the Element Ingredients of the Universe. Now, this book looks different probably than what's in the guide because remember, my guide is older. A lot of my books are older. So they've changed. They always change the cover, you know. And then there's some living books, Marie Curie, Albert Einstein, Atoms in the Family. So that is just part of the science. They also have a chemistry experiment kit along with this. So then they finish off the year with, I don't have it in front of me. I'm pretty sure I have it. I'm not sure where it's at, but Evolution, the Grand Experiment. Then they also want you to have the DVD. And I think in the new guide, you are also purchasing a teacher's student guide. And this curriculum is actually, I post pictures, is actually from Master Books. And they've been using this curriculum for a long, long time, but the guide is new. I think they've added that when they updated these guides. So a suggestion I have seen, but also have thought about myself, is maybe dropping that evolution part of it and turning it into an intro to chemistry. If you do that, I would suggest adding Chemistry 101. And that's a DVD series. They have student printables. I have used this curriculum. I have a video on the Biology 101. I'll link that below. It might help you a little bit. But the Chemistry 101 is amazing. So adding those videos in an extra day or just extra work, you would have to figure out how you would want to schedule that in to what is already scheduled in the guide with these books. So that would be one option to do for the high school science. Or you could use what they use in the world geography. And I'm going to look right here. It is Integrated Physics and Chemistry. They also have an experiment kit. Now, one of my boys did use that when they did the world geography. So you'd probably want to get the guide, especially if you were going to use it the next year. You would have it anyways. Or you may just be able to get that science. It's a lot of reading. The only thing they don't mention in there is the experiments, but you may be able to figure that out once you get the book that goes with the experiments. So that is an option. Or really, you could just pick your own. Maybe there is something else from Master Books that does a full credit that you would like to do. Maybe you have a science curriculum you prefer. Maybe you're involved in a co-op. So those are some options for science. For math, they give several options, but most of them are middle school math. They do have a couple that are pre-algebra, and they have, I think, an algebra selection that you could choose from. Or you can continue to use what you're already using. A lot of times homeschool families like the math they're using and want to stick with it. And the great thing about these guides, like I said, on this side of the page, they do have the other subjects scheduled, but at the bottom of that box, it says, or use your own program. So that is great. And the same thing for language arts. So they do have a couple options for language arts, but again, you can use what you are already using, or maybe there was something else that you had planned to use for high school. Also, I want to mention for electives, they do have these two books, Common Sense Business for Kids and Whatever Happened to Penny Candy, in this particular guide. And really, it's mentioned as economics. So you may want to add a couple things to that. They do have a blue stocking guide with questions, answers, and essays that you could add to this book. I don't think they have anything you can add to this. I'm going to just give you a suggestion that we have used, and it doesn't have to be what you choose. But if you wanted to go ahead and get the economics credit in this early American history program for high school, you could do those two books that I mentioned, and they're scheduled in the guide. I would probably, me personally, I would add the blue stocking guide with this. And also from Compass Classroom, they have economics for everybody. And then it's really just videos and a book that has exactly what's in the videos, but with questions and answers at the end. So you'd have to figure out how to schedule that in to either make it a full or half a credit. They also have art in this guide, so you may be able to get a half or full credit. Depends on what is involved there. Those are just some suggestions, but there would be no problem in making this work for a high school and getting your credits filled in. All right, I do want to mention the guide my son is using this school year, Revival to Revolution. There have been people that have used this for 9th grade. Now, and for this guide, again, there are extensions. So you're going to be right on the borderline of 9th grade. You may want to be really focused on their narration and maybe asking a little bit more for it. You definitely want to look into a different language arts and math. So they also have a music study in this guide. You can use that for art. It may only be half a credit, but that is something towards your high school credits that you're needing. Another thing would be with this guide, the science. Now, my son is using their science, exploration, education, standard physical science. They have an advanced one, which is meant for high school. I think more like 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. But if you got the advanced, which would be more work, more experiments, would be perfect for high school. So, and that is scheduled in this guide. So you would have your history with your extensions, with an advanced science already scheduled in there. So you would need to make the changes for the language arts and for the math and add any electives that you wanted. So, all right, those are my thoughts on using these middle school guides for high school. I hope it was helpful. I just wanted to share this video because I know a lot of people that do use it and do watch my videos. I do see this question different places on social media, so I just thought I would share a video and maybe it would help somebody. But I do appreciate you all watching. I do homeschool content. I've done it past and present, talking about homeschooling my boys over these 17 years. I am focused right now on middle school curriculum and just preparing for high school. I've done some brainstorming videos from my uprising 8th grader. I will link those below. If this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up, comment below. Would love to hear from you. I hope you all have a wonderful week and we will talk to you again soon.